Great day, and welcome back to the podcast, The Recovery Life After Heartbreak. Well, this podcast was established to help all of us learn how to move on. We can have heartbreak from, it can be familiar, it can be relational, it can be romantic, it can be coworker, whatever it is. We all experience heartbreak at some point in our lives. Unfortunately, for some of us and many of us, heartbreak can continue to come from the same place continuously over and over again. And so the title of today's podcast is When Do You Move On? When do you move on? Before I forget, the last time we were on the podcast, I came on and asked everyone to pray for my dad. We'd like to ask you guys to continue to pray for my dad. Pray also for my mom and my brother and the rest of my family that's actually in Tennessee where my father is. I've flown out to visit him and looking forward to another trip soon. But we thank you guys for your prayers. Please keep those prayers coming. We are absolutely believing God to heal my dad, and we are praising God and just trusting God to do what only He can do. But so honored as I thought about this over Mother's Day about how we become who we are and the things that we go through in our lives, and how sometimes we want the bad, or what we consider to be the bad, to have not been there. But had those things not taken place, even the heartbreaks that we talk about here on this podcast, then we would not be exactly who we are. So I'm learning to not rewrite my story, because it can't be rewritten. It is what it was. But to give a different view, or to have a different perspective. And that comes with our maturity. That comes with God's grace and mercy and His divine strength within us. And so that's really what this podcast is about, is encouraging you. So again, thank you guys for praying for my dad. But a question that often comes up, like when I'm counseling, for those of you who don't know, I don't usually say that on here because I have another podcast which is more about faith and mental health and kind of combined. But I am a board certified biblical counselor, master mental health coach. I received my master's in in biblical counseling, specializing in marriage and family. And anyway, I get questions often. How do I know when to let go? How do I know when it's done? How do I know when I should be forgiving, or what does forgiveness look like, and all of those questions. But today I want to talk about when we know, like, how do we know when it's time to move on? And my answer is going to be is that God will show you. He will tell you. You will know it in your heart. Sometimes you won't feel like it's time, or that you have the strength to move on from the hurt and the pain. But when you start making and taking the steps, you're going to be surprised at the strength of God within you. As the children of God, we are able to rely on that strength. God loves all of us. We're all His children, but then there are some that are in covenant with Him because we've accepted Jesus as our Savior, and all of the things that come with that, right? But what do we do when our heart is broken over and over and over again? And how do we know when to let go? I think that comes with us being able to accept that we are who God says that we are, and to actually set up some healthy boundaries that will allow us to live freely and allow others to live freely too, but understanding exactly what it is to be a part of our lives. And it's not that there's an air of arrogance or arrogance existing in that. It is really about being able to accept ourselves as God says that we are, and allow ourselves to accept the type of love and relationships and friendships that God has ordained for our lives. It is never God's intention for our hearts to be broken, for people to use us, to abuse us, to lie on us. But He'll use it for good. And so when He sees that, hey, I can get glory out of this, and not only can I get glory out of this with my child, the world can see my glory. They can see my faithfulness. They can see the healing power that I have. Then I'm going to allow this, though it might break her heart or his heart. I'm going to allow it because I'm also, as God, a heart mender. And note, I'm not saying that I'm God. I'm just speaking in reference to God and His view and His heart, and what I've learned about God, and about how when we move forward in forgiveness, when we move forward in faith, when we hand things to God and say, Lord, you know what? I have absolutely done all that I can do. Over this last week or so, my son was home on leave from the Air Force, and he was, anyways, you don't need all the details of that, but he reminded me one day, he actually said to me, he said, Mom, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, why? He says, because you're not, I said myself. And he said, yes. He says, I've never seen you stress. You're not a stressor. Like, stressful things happen and we respond to them. He goes, but this is different. And so I began to talk to my son, who at that time was ministering to and counseling me. And I'm proud of that, right? And he said, sometimes we have to accept, and this is one of those times, Mom, that you have done all that you can, that the others involved in this situation have made decisions that have affected their current life. And though we would prefer that their life not be going down the road that it's going, you've done all that you can do. And so when we get to that point when we've literally done all that we can do, we will at times feel a step back, a drawing, a pulling. You'll feel it in the spirit, like God is not going to leave you. You ask him, you say, Lord, show me, how am I supposed to handle this? How am I supposed to navigate the situation? But what happens at times is that as God is showing us, step back, walk away, be quiet, ignore the phone call, block the message, whatever we need to do, we question if it's God because we feel like God wouldn't tell us to walk away from people or to let things go or to just move on. But that's the furthest thing from the truth. We have examples of how to manage all of our relationships in the Bible. And then with Abram, God said to him, he called him out. He said, I need you to leave the place where your father and your family is. And I need you to leave this place. And I need you to go to the place that I will show you. That means I haven't shown you yet. I ain't even told you about it. I'm just saying, pack up your things, bring your family, your immediate family, bring all your belongings, and let's roll. And he did that. He absolutely did that. Now, Lot came along with him. So I believe that God gave us examples, perfect examples in one story of how God will keep his promises when we obey him. I believe also he showed how when we don't directly obey him, there's issues. Like Lot was an issue. Lot was a lot, right? But then also I believe that there's the grace of God shown in this situation as well, because God didn't curse Abram because Lot came. He gave Abram wisdom that Abram may not have had Lot not come, because he showed him how to properly separate himself. He allowed him to say, hey, you know what? We both have too much. It's an issue. Let's not let it be an issue. So you choose. And wherever you go, I'll go the opposite. And he let him choose the richest and the most fertile and all of those things of the land. But right after he did that, right after he surrendered, it wasn't fair, because I'm your uncle. I brought you out here. I established you. You got greatness and money and riches because of me. But I'm going to let you have everything you want. And the minute Abram did that, God blessed him abundantly. He's like, look, he started making him promises. He came under covenants with him, all because he knew when to let it go, when to walk away. He had to go save Lot one other time because Lot was about to get killed. But Lot never actually changed his stripes. As I say, tigers don't change their stripes. And what that means, and I have a better understanding and a revelation of it now, it doesn't mean that people can't change if they choose to, or if they surrender their hearts to God. Because see, if I'm acting like a tiger, but I'm not really a tiger, and I surrender myself to God, then I can change, because that's not who I was intended to be from the beginning. But if I've chosen to be a tiger, a ravishing liar, a person who hurts and harms and breaks people's hearts and is narcissistic and all of these other things, but that's a choice I've made, I won't change my stripes, because I'm not willing to give it up. I'm not willing to give up that control. And note, I speak generally. So if you've never listened to me on any of my other podcasts, sometimes I speak in the first, third person. Just flow with me, because I'm not saying I'm narcissistic or any of those things. Just a general speaking, right? About what that means to me and what that revelation was of the tiger never changing its stripes. And sometimes it hurts, like, to see a person for who they are, right? And then sometimes you'll be like, God, why did you require of me to stay in this situation? Even after they've shown this, I seeked you, God. I asked you to to let me just be cool. Like, I'm cool if they don't ever talk to me again. I'm cool if we don't see each other. Like, I'm cool. But God kept saying, no, you keep praying and you keep staying and you keep loving and you keep covering. Well, it was hard. It was absolutely hard. And then you get to that place where you decide, I'm going to just trust God real good, right? And when you look back at that thing over time, you will be able to see that every time they broke your heart, you became more and more of the person who God intended for you to be. Because see, it says we have these treasures in earthen vessels, right? So the treasure of God, God's spirit is within us, his strength, his power, his might, the ability to speak things into existence because we're made in his image. But sometimes we don't know those things are down in there. And we wouldn't unless our vessel gets cracked and they start to spill out. And initially the cracking hurts, right? And the abandonment hurts and the heartbreak hurts. But then you realize that no matter how many times you get broken, God doesn't let you become depleted, right? You still have a heart full of love. You still have grace and mercy to give and to show and to receive. So even though the heartbreak hurt, it wasn't fair, it was wrong, baby, don't regret it. Know that the man or woman that you have become will prepare you for the final heartbreak when God will say, you know what? The door is closed. Walk away. Trust me as your savior, your protector, and your vindicator. And then you walk away, not with vengeance in your heart, like, my daddy gonna get them. You have confidence that your daddy will keep his word because you're in covenant with him. But then you move forward, focused in on what God is saying your next is, what God is calling you to do in your business, in your ministry, in your family, whatever it is he's calling you to do, then you move forward with that. That is when you know it's time to let go and to move forward. I hope what I've shared today has helped you, has blessed you in some way, whether it's in 2024, 30, 24, 56, 24. Know that you have been prayed for, you have been covered. And because prayers have no expiration date, and I'm speaking these things and making these prayers for you with the breath of God that is within me, that will speak words and never return unto him void, you can know that what we prayed for you will come to pass. Well, until next Tuesday, I want to say God bless you. Remember to practice the art of forgiving, to walk through the process, to be kind to yourself while you're walking through the process, because, honey, it's a process. And especially if you have to be exposed to the person who keeps breaking your heart. It's a process of just seeing you, just forgiving over and over again. And forgiveness, even if you don't have to see a person continuously, is a process. You make the decision in the beginning, and then you have to continue to make that decision over and over again until the process has completed itself. Well, if you need any help with any of those things, you can meet us at mindingwhatmattersnow.com. Again, that is mindingwhatmatters with an S now.com. We'll be glad to speak with you through coaching, counseling, courses, or however we can walk alongside you through this journey. Have a great and blessed and wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.